Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're taking a sledgehammer to a culturally celebrated myth. You know the one, the idea that paying off your mortgage as fast as humanly possible is the ultimate American dream. We've all been told by our parents, our friends, and pretty much every traditional financial guru out there that living completely debt-free is the absolute final step to true financial freedom. But what if that conventional wisdom is actually a giant mathematical trap? What if by rushing to literally burn your mortgage paperwork, you're accidentally making yourself poor while making the banks incredibly rich? Well, today, we're going to dive deep into the undeniable math and the psychology of wealth to show you exactly why keeping your mortgage just might be the absolute smartest financial decision you ever make. All right, let's kick things off by looking at a pretty terrifying historical trap from 1989. Back then, Japanese citizens poured literally every spare yen they had right into their homes. I mean, they assumed property was the absolute safest store of value on the planet, right? They were totally convinced that real estate only goes up and that holding any kind of debt was practically a financial sin. But then, 1989 hits and that housing bubble violently bursts. The results? Totally catastrophic. Their net worth just evaporated overnight. And because they'd locked all their wealth into physical property, millions of people were left functionally trapped. No liquid capital, no way to recover for decades.
So here's what traditional financial media completely glosses over. The financial industry, the banking sector, traditional retirement planners, they're often pushing you toward a goal that serves them, not you. Think about it. By aggressively paying down a low-interest mortgage, you're doing exactly what the banks want. You are systematically draining your own highly flexible liquid cash and locking it away in a literal brick-and-mortar vault. They frame this as, financial arrival, but really, they're just convincing you to take your absolute most powerful tool, liquid capital, and hand it right back to them.
And honestly, this brilliantly illustrates the reality of home equity using my absolute favorite metaphor, the drywall anchor. Think about when you push a drywall anchor into your living room wall. It goes in so smoothly, right? It feels incredibly solid, flush, and super safe. But what happens if, say, a pipe bursts and you suddenly need to pull that anchor back out to use it somewhere else? Yeah. It doesn't come out easily at all. It rips a massive, jagged, messy hole in your wall and totally ruins the surrounding drywall. Well, cash is flexible. It's useful anywhere. But home equity? Home equity is a drywall anchor. It's stubborn, it's complicated, and it's completely illiquid. And this trap only tightens when things inevitably go wrong in life. Because here's the reality. You absolutely cannot buy groceries or pay hospital bills with a drywall anchor. If your net worth is trapped in the equity sitting in your guest bedroom when disaster strikes, whether that's a sudden job loss, an unexpected medical crisis, or hey, maybe the stock market drops 30% the exact year you plan to retire, you are stuck. You're forced to either uproot your entire life and sell your house during a moment of maximum panic, or you have to go right back to the very same bank you were trying to escape and practically beg them for a loan.
And this brings us to something called the desperation premium. It's wild. If you go to a bank for a loan when you're unemployed or facing a massive medical crisis, you have zero walkaway power. And banks actually have an internal classification for desperate, illiquid customers. They treat you as a highly profitable target. Because you literally need access to your own trapped equity just to survive, they'll charge you this desperation premium. We're talking demanding 8, 9, or even 10% interest to let you borrow the exact same money you voluntarily handed them at 3% just a few years earlier. The bank wins twice, and you're left pulling yourself underwater.
Part 1. Arthur's Opportunity Cost, a case study in mathematical defeat. To prove that vague financial advice is pretty much worthless, we need to look at the unassailable math. Let's look at the story of a 50-year-old fictional character we'll call Arthur. Arthur makes good money, and he has a standard 30-year fixed mortgage at 3%, but Arthur absolutely hates debt. He views it as a moral failing. So he decides to aggressively double his monthly mortgage payments to clear the entire loan in 15 years instead of 30. He doubles his payments, throws a party, burns his mortgage paperwork in the backyard, and feels like a total financial genius. But he completely fails to calculate the invisible opportunity cost. By locking up thousands of extra dollars every month just to kill a 3% interest charge, Arthur is mathematically guaranteeing himself a meager 3% return. He completely ignores the alternative. Consistently investing that extra surplus cash in a boring, low-cost S&P 500 index fund, which has historically returned an average of roughly 8% annual. Look at how this builds. By rushing to kill a 3% debt, Arthur deliberately sacrifices an 8% market return. That leaves a brutal 5% compounding spread. This lost spread entirely alters the compounding trajectory of his retirement portfolio. He essentially snatched defeat from the jaws of victory, right? He locked up his cash exactly when it should have been out there working for him, compounding year after year after year. Which leads us to this staggering number, $150,000.
Arthur voluntarily surrendered $150,000 in pure opportunity cost right to the bank. And he didn't lose it in a market crash or to some crazy scam. He lost it simply because he chose the emotional comfort of a paid-off house over the cold, hard, mathematical reality of compound interest. He essentially surrendered the most powerful compounding years of his entire life.
Part 2. The hidden power of inflation. Paying with tomorrow's dollars. Now, there's a whole other invisible layer to this trap that the financial media almost never talks about, and it fundamentally changes how you should view your 30-year fixed mortgage. We have to talk about inflation. Because central banks are constantly inflating currency, the actual purchasing power of your dollars is always shrinking. But your 30-year fixed mortgage payment? That's locked in forever. If your payment is $2,000 a month today, it's still going to be exactly $2,000 a month in the year 2045. As inflation slowly erodes the value of a single dollar, your fixed mortgage debt actually gets cheaper and cheaper to service every single year. So rushing to pay it off early means you're wasting today's highly valuable, strong dollars to extinguish a debt that inflation would have gladly eaten away for you over the next couple of decades.
Real quick, before we get into the exact step-by-step fix for this, I want to mention that I've linked a free early retirement calculator down in the description of this explainer. Most online calculators use pretty flawed assumptions, but this one uses actual institutional logic from giants like Vanguard and BlackRock to expose the weak points in your specific plan. It only requires an email to send the report. Absolutely zero financial data is stored. It's just a fantastic tool to quickly check your own math against reality.
Part 3. Achieving strategic liquidity. The playbook. All right, so if you want to avoid Arthur's tragic $150,000 mistake and actually build resilient wealth that survives economic downturns, you've got to shift your mindset. You need to move away from debt anxiety and step into the world of strategic liquidity. Here are the exact step-by-step mathematical actions you need to take right now to reverse this trap. This is how you start using your low-interest mortgage not as a burden but as nearly free leverage to build some serious compounding wealth.
Step 1. You got to pull up your mortgage statement today and compare your exact interest rate to a conservative 8% market return. Listen, if you locked in a mortgage during those historic lows, we're talking anywhere between 2 and 4%, you hold an incredibly valuable financial asset. If you have a strongly positive spread, meaning the market historically returns significantly more than your mortgage costs, the math literally dictates that you must stretch that cheap debt out for as long as the bank will legally let you hold it.
Moving to step 2. Log into your bank portal right now and cancel those automatic extra principal payments. Stop trading highly flexible cash for highly inflexible home equity. Instead, take that extra money and build what we call a bridge bucket. This is a massive liquid cash reserve held in a high-yield savings account or maybe short-term treasury bills. It basically acts as your ultimate financial shock absorber. With this bucket in place, if you lose your job or the market completely tanks, you can cover your living expenses and those minimum mortgage payments for a year or two. This ensures you literally never have to sell stocks at depressed prices or go crawling to a bank for a terrible loan.
And finally, step 3. You want to set up automatic recurring transfers to a low-cost, broadly diversified index fund. You want the money leaving your checking account to buy a slice of the entire stock market before your lifestyle even notices it's missing. The ultimate goal here is for your money to reach the inversion point. That's that magical milestone where your invested capital actually begins producing more wealth than your own physical labor does. And remember, you can absolutely never achieve this milestone if your capital is buried inside the drywall of your living room.
So stop trying to time the market. Seriously, stop chasing hot individual stocks or the next wild crypto moonshot. The secret to outsmarting the banking industry and keeping your capital working for you is just pure consistency. Always remember this essential rule. Lazy investing has built way more fortune than crypto memes ever will.
We've all been conditioned our entire lives to view a paid-off house as the ultimate symbol of having made it, but symbols are dangerously expensive. The true mechanics of freedom require liquid, accessible, compounding capital. Capital that you can use whenever you want without asking a single bank for permission. So I'll leave you with this one question to think about. Are you going to keep your cash trapped as a stubborn drywall anchor, or are you finally ready to deploy it on your own terms? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I will catch you in the next one.